UFC Fight Night Vegas 8 Smith vs Rakic takes place this weekend, and I'm going to be going through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card. What an amazing card this is. The last two cards that we've had have completely tarnished my prediction rate, so I'm hoping that logic will prevail and we won't have another bit of pandemonium like we've had on the last two cards. This card is the one. Resurrection season is upon us. I might be saying that for the next 5 cards to come. But I'm promising you guys, I've got a real good feeling about this one. I think I'm going to do okay. Early prelim opener of an amazing fight to open up the early prelims. Sean Brady versus Christian Aguilera. In my opinion, this should not be opening up the early prelims, but that just shows you how good this card is. Great matchup. Sean Brady, I've been so impressed with him since he made his debut. Undefeated 12-0, fought good competition. Last beat Ismail Nurdiev, who's a great striker in himself, and coming up against a guy in Christian Aguilera, it's good to have that experience against a great technical striker in Ismail Nurdiev. That fight against Ismail Nurdiev showed me that Sean Brady can go out there and use his grappling against a guy who's got good footwork, who understands range. It's very easy to use your grappling as a good grappler against a guy who doesn't really know what he's doing on his feet. But when you've got good striking like Ismail Nurdiev does, like Christian Aguilera does, I feel like Ismail Nurdiev's a bit of a better striker than Aguilera, but that's okay. That's okay. You understand footwork, and that's what Nurdiev was showing against Sean Brady, but Sean Brady showed enough of a striking understanding to avoid being exposed, to avoid leaving himself open against Nurdiev, and eventually closed the distance, used his grappling well in that third round to secure himself the win. Great performance as well in that fight, and he's had some dominant performances throughout his career, one over Court McGee. Court McGee's a guy who beat Robert Whittaker not too long ago in that division. People forget about that one, but still. Sean Brady, great performance. Christian Aguilera is a guy who comes out for the KO in the first round. Extremely exciting to watch. Fought not too long ago against Anthony Ivy and chinned him in the first round on the temple. Now, was it a shot that's going to KO everyone? No, but maybe that's a tribute to the power of Christian Aguilera. Maybe he has really, really dangerous power and we don't know about it yet, but I feel as though Christian Aguilera is still the older guy here. Sean Brady, 27 years of age, got his entire career ahead of him, 12-0 undefeated, dominant guy in the grappling department. I feel as though he'll be able to out-grapple Christian Aguilera because Christian Aguilera is a guy who goes for it in the first round, which means he's going to be really throwing his shots. When you're coming forward like Aguilera does, and you're throwing big shots, that's going to leave many an opportunity for Brady to get underneath them and go for a double leg in the center of the cage. I think Brady rides this one out until the third round where he gets himself a finish. Maybe in the second round as well, because Christian Aguilera does slow down quite a bit in his fights because he does go so hard in those early rounds. It sometimes pays off, it sometimes doesn't, but I am going to be going with Sean Brady to get the job done by finishing the third round by submission once Aguilera is tired of the grappling for about 10 minutes. Brady gets it done, moving on up the card. Oh my god, we're immediately at women's MMA. Yeah, about that resurrection. Polyana Viana versus Emily Whitmire. I mean, a great fight. 4-3, Emily Whitmire. At least it's a positive record. Polyana Viana coming off 3 losses in a row, but in my opinion, she beat Hannah Syphers, so take that with a little bit of a pinch of salt. She's arguably just coming off a 1-fight loss streak because, as I said, she did look like she beat Hannah Syphers in that matchup. Even still, Polyana Viana, in my opinion, I mean, it was a close fight between her and Hannah Syphers, actually. What am I talking about? It was a rightful split decision. I thought Polyana Viana got it done, but, you know, Hannah Syphers could have won that fight as well. It was a close one. Polyana Viana showed great cardio in that matchup, though, with good volume in the third round. Emily Whitmire coming off a loss to Amanda Ribas, where she survived into the second round, which is a good thing. She survived some jiu-jitsu positions, but you're talking about, again, on Polyana Viana. Done my research. Jiu-jitsu world champion in 2015, female jiu-jitsu world champion. I feel like Emily Whitmire's only chance here is to try and get this to the ground and try and do some kind of grappling situation, because that's where Emily Whitmire wins a lot of her fights previously in her career. She wins a lot of them by eventually getting her opponent to the ground, working on top and just being a little bit busier as the fight goes on. Polyana Viana, though, although coming off a first round submission loss to Veronica Macedo, she's a jiu-jitsu world champion and she gets first round armbarred by Veronica Macedo. I mean, it's just women's MMA. What are you supposed to do? But she's more experienced. She's got the reach advantage. I like her stand-up way better than I do Emily Whitmire. And I feel like if Whitmire gets Viana down, Viana has the jiu-jitsu understanding to not get submitted by a 4-3 Emily Whitmire, who hasn't really beaten any girls of note too much in her career, not to mention Emily Whitmire coming off a loss to Amanda Ribas by second round submission. Polyana Viana KO'd Amanda Ribas in the first round, the only loss on Amanda Ribas' career. Viana is no joke. Her back's against the wall. If she loses this one, she's cut from the UFC. She knows that. I think she's going to go out there and get the job done over Emily Whitmire. Moving on up the card, Alex Caceres versus Giga Chikadze. Great matchup. So far, I've got Brady, Viana. I'm going to go with Caceres. I really am. Viana and Emily Whitmire are evens, but I feel like Viana's more likely the favourite in that one. I think a lot more people are going to be picking Viana than Emily Whitmire for some reason. Alex Caceres is going to beat Giga Chikadze in my opinion. I'm sick of counting out Alex Caceres. Now, I do worry about this prediction because Alex Caceres has had a knack in his career to start winning a fight or two and then completely losing again and losing all steam. But recently, he's had a real hard time stringing together 2 wins in a row, all the way since 2016 when he beat Cole Miller and Mazio Falen. Yeah, not too many good wins on I'm thinking about his last victim. Alex Caceres' career, great performance in his last 2. Steven Peterson is nobody's fool in that division. Amazing fighter. Not amazing fighter, but, you know, he's a good scrapper in that division. Alex Caceres gets it done against him. I have been really underwhelmed by Giga Chikadze's performances, and he is so much of a heavy favourite here. I'm going to pick Alex Caceres. Giga Chikadze, I feel like this fight should be evens. Giga Chikadze has not been impressive. He took on Irwin Rivera, basically a flyweight-sized man, but realistically a bantamweight as well, that just won a razor-close decision against another guy, Ali Al-Kwasi, that joined the UFC. Irwin Rivera went in on short notice and made it a bit of a scrap, and it wasn't a good performance from Giga Chikadze. I don't see the finishing ability that I need to see, not to mention Alex Caceres has gone to razor-close decisions with guys like Yair Rodriguez on the feet. You give Alex Caceres a guy who's going to keep it on the feet with him, I think that's a real big advantage for him not to have to worry about takedowns. And you're talking about a guy in Giga Chikadze who was getting outstruck by Brandon Davis and had to shoot takedowns in that fight. Who was getting outstruck by Jamal Emmers and had to shoot takedowns in that fight as well. I feel like Caceres is going to be able to stuff the panic takedowns of Giga Chikadze. He's a veteran of the game. He's been around for the longest time. The experience is going to come in handy. Giga Chikadze has fought nothing but cans before joining the UFC. Even when joining the UFC, he gets like a 10-7 Brandon Davis that he takes to a split decision, and Davis took that fight on short notice. Emmers took the fight on short notice, I believe, as well. Actually, I think they both took that fight on short notice, but still went to a split decision. Emmers arguably could have won that one, but Chikadze had some moments where it looked like he hurt Emmers, so he secures himself the win there. 2 split decisions in a row. I'm not picking Giga Chikadze. I think you need to beat Brandon Davis, Jamal Emmers and Irwin Rivera a little bit more convincingly than that if I think you're then going to jump over the hump of Alex Caceres, who, although is not the best fighter in the world, is definitely a skill level above guys like Brandon Davis and Jamal Emmers so far in their career, and Irwin Rivera, who's a weight division below. Same with Brandon Davis, who went down to bantamweight, lost there, and I mean, I don't rate any of this. I don't rate Giga Chikadze's wins. I think Alex Caceres is going to get the job done. Giga Chikadze seems a little bit too patient sometimes on the feet. I think that's going to leave many an opening for Caceres to start getting off some of his kicks, get a little bit loose. I think Caceres is going to be very comfortable in there against a guy who's willing to strike with him. Giga Chikadze, a much taller guy in there, a little bit lankier, 5'8" versus 6 foot tall. Not too much of a reach advantage. Caceres is going to find some... I mean, normally Giga Chikadze is very used to having a long reach advantage. This is going to be one of those times when he doesn't have it. Against Emmers, it was a little bit of a problem because Emmers has a long reach as well. I think I'm going to go with Alex Caceres getting the job done by a close decision win, 2-1. I'll say split decision in favour of Alex Caceres getting it done. Moving on up the card, that's my first underdog. Alessio De Chirico versus Zach Cummings. Pretty evens on the odds, rightfully so. Zach Cummings still dangerous, so the odds makers don't want to write him off yet because he's always dangerous. Zach Cummings has a win over Trevin Giles not too long ago, but then again, Trevin Giles lost to James Krause, a welterweight on a day's notice up a weight class. Like, it's just, although he got gifted the win, he clearly lost that fight against James Krause, in my opinion. I don't know how much I rate a win over Trevin Giles, but then again, Zach Cummings, still in the game. He is a little bit older right now. I've seen a trend of older fighters recently maybe not showing up in peak condition under the current circumstances. I'm not going to hold that against Zach Cummings, but I feel as though Alessio Di Chirico is so underrated in that middleweight division. An amazing fighter, in my opinion, could have arguably beat Kevin Holland. I think that fight could go either way. Rightfully so, it was a split decision. Alessio Di Chirico had some really good moments in that fight, showed his grappling defense against a guy who's tricky on the ground in Kevin Holland that gave Thiago Santos all kinds of problems. Alessio Di Chirico has enough of grappling defense to avoid the grappling of Zach Cummings, keep it standing, where he had a great match with Makhmud Muradov. People forget about his match with Makhmud Muradov. It was a great performance. He's shown good takedown defense throughout his entire career as Alessio Di Chirico, has shown a great chin. He had a really good performance against Makhmud Muradov. I liked his striking. He landed the bigger shots, but Makhmud Muradov just did a good job of outlanding him every single round and making sure he was ahead on the numbers. But Di Chirico was landing big bombs on Muradov in that fight. I think he's going to find Zach Cummings with those same shots if he can find Muradov with them. I think he's going to catch Zach Cummings with them, and I think Alessio Di Chirico gets it done by TKO. I like Zach Cummings. I like Alessio Di Chirico way more. I think he's very underrated and he's been on the wrong end of some close fights, I'll be honest with you. Close fights happen. And he's fought some good opponents and he's looked good against them. It's not, I mean, you come into the UFC in 2019, you think, alright, I'm going to have a good 2019, and the UFC offers you Kevin Holland and Makhmud Muradov, and you make both of them look close. I'm going to give it to Alessio Di Chirico. I think he gets the job done. Younger guy, stronger guy. I think he gets it done against Zach Cummings. Moving on up the card, Mallory Martin versus Hannah Syphers. Again, like, what do we go off of here? Mallory Martin, bigger girl for the weight class. Younger girl for the weight class as well. Hannah Syphers coming off a loss to Maria Agapova, who just lost to Shayna fucking Dobson. So, like, what do we even do at this point right now? But, you know, Mallory Martin comes into the UFC, loses her debut against Virna Jandiroba in the second round. Not too bad in the second round. I mean, Virna Jandiroba goes out there and submits girls in the first round. So, you know, it's not the best debut to have, to be taking on Virna Jandiroba, who I believe was 14-1 at the time when Mallory Martin was 6-2. Great performance. Not really, though. I just don't like Hannah Syphers. She just seems to be showing up for paychecks right now because she just goes out there and loses each time, and I always find myself being a little bit underwhelmed by Hannah Syphers' performances. I feel like she's taken too much damage now recently in her career over a quick amount of time. She went in a bit of a scrap with Polyana Viana. She had a scrap here, and then she lost to Mackenzie Dern by submission and hurt her knee, and then she came back and got the shit kicked out of her by Maria Agapova, took a bunch of damage there and got submitted in that fight as well. I'm going to go with the young blood. I'm going to go with Mallory Martin. Hannah Syphers has experience, but it's bad experience, and it's recent experience. Just in the 14th of June, which was, what, 2 months ago? Not just over 2 months ago, she got TKO'd basically. Head kicked, dropped to the canvas, beaten up the entire round. I don't like this turnaround for her. I think Mallory Martin's going to get the job done by a close decision because it's women's MMA. It'll be a close decision. Moving on, Maki Potolo versus Impa Kasanganay. I like Impa Kasanganay. I really do like Impa Kasanganay. I will say this. For him to be turning around this quickly after his Contender Series matchup, he did not have an easy time on the Contender Series. For them to be turning him around 3 weeks later, I'm sorry, maybe even 2 weeks later, since his Contender Series matchup, this fight got postponed 1 extra week. Maki Potolo went out there against Darren Stewart, had a full camp against Darren Stewart, got submitted in the first round, got caught in a guillotine as he went for a takedown. Stuff like that happens, but with Impa Kasanganay, I just don't think he has shown the finishing ability that I need to see you show if I'm going to be picking you against Maki Potolo. Now, Maki Potolo is coming off a submission loss to Darren Stewart. He had a full camp for that one. He's turning right back around. He took no damage against Darren Stewart pretty much whatsoever in that fight, other than tapping to the submission. Maybe he hurt his fingertips. Who knows? I think Impa Kasanganay is going to be a little bit too beaten up to the legs after his fight on the Contender Series. He took a lot of shots to the legs against Anthony Adams, who's 8-1, was the best opponent of his career, but other than that, he hasn't really fought too many good guys, has won some split decisions over guys who are 4-3, Devorius Tubbs. His surname's Tubbs. Why you weren't going to a split decision with him? Like, he's had another split decision in his debut against another guy making their debut. I just feel as though he hasn't fought good competition yet. And the competition that he has fought, he hasn't made it look easy. So I'm not going to be picking Impa Kasanganay to get this one done. He did beat Anthony Adams, who was a good fighter. But in that fight, his legs got chewed up in that first round. You don't turn around 2 weeks after that and walk fine. I get that he wanted his opportunity in the UFC. I feel like if Dana White wasn't coming back from holiday like he said he was and in a good mood, he probably wouldn't have signed him for Kasanganay, because in all honesty, it wasn't a dominant performance on the Contender Series to earn himself a contract, but they gave it to him anyway because he said he'd have a quick turnaround. I just feel as though Maki Potolo is going to get this job done, go out there, be patient, be more experienced. He's been in the UFC for longer. He's fought better competition throughout his career. He's fought a lot of good opponents. I think he's going to go out there and get the job done against Impa Kasanganay and ruin the debut, because I just haven't seen Impa Kasanganay dominant enough in his career so far, and I haven't seen him beat anyone too good whatsoever, not to mention the finishing ability thing. Maki Potolo is a guy who gets stronger as the fight goes on. I need you to try and get him out of there early, or he's going to build momentum and eventually get the better of you. I'll go with the experience of Maki Potolo getting a finish in the 3rd round against Impa Kasanganay. Moving on to the main card. Ryan Hall is off of the main card against Ricardo Lamas. They don't know who Ricardo Lamas is going to be taking on that card next. Apparently it's to be determined, so that will pop up at some point throughout the week. It annoys me that we have to wait the week of to find out who is on the card, but if it's someone who's a bum, just count me as a prediction for Ricardo Lamas, I guess. But we'll move on to the rest of the main card of this fight night, which is amazing. Magny and Ankalaev versus Ion Cutelaba. It gets my juices flowing, boys. It gets my kids swimming. You know what I mean? Like, this is just... Magny and Ankalaev versus Ion Cutelaba is co-main event worthy of a fight night. It's main card worthy of a pay-per-view. I love this matchup. I wanted it to happen not too long ago at UFC 252. We didn't get it then, but we're getting it now on a fight night to make this fight night so amazing. I'm picking Ion Cutelaba to win by 1st round TKO. He's such a big underdog, and I don't think Magny and Ankalaev is as good as some people think he is. He got submitted by Paul Craig, and although people seem to have a memory of that fight, I've watched the Paul Craig fight again. People have a memory of that fight like Magny and Ankalaev was dominating the entire thing until the very finish. That was not the case. Paul Craig had many good moments, including a guy in Paul Craig who's normally very lackluster on the feet in that division. For example, if I had to see a fight between Cutelaba and Paul Craig that was on the feet, I think Cutelaba would absolutely expose Paul Craig on the feet and get a 1st round KO. Against Magny and Ankalaev, Paul Craig was looking okay, got a couple takedowns here and there, had some top position himself, lost position a couple times in the grappling, some good sweeps from Magny and Ankalaev. We've seen Ion Cutelaba reveal his grappling game against a guy in Khalil Roundtree, completely dominated him with the grappling in the 1st round and smushed into the canvas and beat the hell out of him. But then again, Khalil Roundtree's shown a weakness in his grappling in his career. I just feel as though Ion Cutelaba's going to get the job done. We're in the smaller octagon now, which is going to play a huge part in things, especially for the brawler in Ion Cutelaba compared to the footwork rangefinder in Magny and Ankalaev. I think the smaller cage values the bruiser with power here. I'm going to go with Ion Cutelaba. And Magny and Ankalaev's very good. I do feel as though Cutelaba has less of a chance than he did the first time of winning, because he's now used his trick of trying to lure Magny and Ankalaev into a brawl, which is actually how I predicted he would win the first fight, by luring Ankalaev into a brawl and getting it done. But I still think he gets the job done by 1st round... Not by 1st round TKO against Ankalaev. I think the mayhem, the small cage, the fast starting of Cutelaba, who's a little bit more switched on this time, the history that they have together has been building up. I'm going to go with Ion Cutelaba getting the job done by TKO early in a big upset. That's my 2nd underdog on the card. So far, we've got Ion Cutelaba as a big underdog, and we've got Alex Caceres as a big underdog as well, and maybe Maki Potolo. I'm not sure on the odds there. Moving on up the card, I think Cutelaba gets it done against Ankalaev. I'll do a full fight breakdown for that with a little bit more technique in there and a little bit... I've got some more reasons. Cutelaba, I feel like, is going to get the job done against Ankalaev, a way shorter guy. I don't believe Ankalaev's 6'2". I think he's a little bit taller than that. Cutelaba, equal reach as well. Shorter guy with the same reach proves to be some problems for a lot of taller guys. They like to have the reach advantage. I'm going to go with Cutelaba getting it done early with a little bit of mind games, then a fast start with a lot of craziness. He catches Ankalaev on the chin. Moving on up the card, Yi Yon Kim versus Alexa Grasso. I'm going with Alexa Grasso. We have seen in the past that women who move up from strawweight are at a different talent level than the women at flyweight. We saw recently Cynthia Calvillo, who was outside the top 10 at strawweight, jump straight to number 1 against Jessica Ai at flyweight and completely school her over 5 rounds pretty much. I mean, Jessica Ai could have won a round. It could have been 4-1 Calvillo. It could have been 3-2 Calvillo. I just feel like the competition level at flyweight is not there right now, and I'm going to go with Alexa Grasso. She's got more experience. She's the younger girl out there as well. She's got a massive reach disadvantage, so if Yi Yonking's going to have any success, it's going to be keeping behind the jab, throwing a lot of front kicks, using her range that she has over Alexa Grasso. But Alexa Grasso showed great grappling out there in her last performance against Carla Esparza. I thought she arguably maybe could have won that fight, but I'm not angry at the decision whatsoever, because I feel like Alexa Grasso should have done way more when she had Carla Esparza rocked. She kind of rocked Esparza with a 1-2 and then just stared at her instead of going for it, which was really stupid. She could have maybe earned herself a draw, but it went a majority decision to Carla Esparza because of the grappling work, which Alexa Grasso had good moments in as well. Almost armbarred Esparza in that fight, showing great grappling defense. Also beat Karolina Kowalkiewicz, which is a good win in her career. I'm gonna also beat Randa Marcos early in her career as well. Good opponents on her resume. Compared to Yi Yongkim, I just think they're a little bit different skill level. I'm going to go with Alexa Grasso getting the job done by a unanimous decision win. Not too exciting, but she wins herself every round. 30-27 Alexa Grasso. Moving on to the co-main event. Robbie Lawler, the ruthless one, returns against Neil Magny. Robbie Lawler taking this bout on short notice. I'm not going to pick Lawler as an underdog. I'll be honest with you guys, I know that Lawler's only chance to win this one is to get a quick KO. He's taken on short notice. Neil Magny's had a full camp. He's known about this match for a long time. He was supposed to be fighting Jeff Neal on this card. He's known about that. It's been postponed. They're fighting Robbie Lawler now. Lawler jumping in on short notice. Your bet here, if you're going to pick Lawler, in my opinion, is to pick him to win by early KO and go out there and be crazy and catch Neil Magny on the chin. Robbie Lawler has not had a KO finish since Jake Ellenberger. And that was a knee to the body. I don't think it's trustworthy right now to predict Lawler by KO. Neil Magny is a guy who, yes, has been KO'd in his career by guys like Santiago Ponzinibbio, who's an amazing fighter, by the way, that not a lot of people give credit to because he doesn't really fight too often. But Neil Magny came back against Li Jingliang, Anthony Rocco Martin. Although it was a close fight with Rocco Martin, I have incredibly high respect for Rocco Martin. I think he's also one of the underrated guys in that division. Neil Magny had a good performance against him though. Great third round. Showed that he can go 3 rounds hard. I mean, Neil Magny has shown that he can go 5 rounds before. We've seen him do it against a guy like Kelvin Gastelum to a split decision. He had a great performance against Li Jingliang. Great performance there. And let's not forget the Li Jingliang fight, which I've watched again recently. What was happening? Li Jingliang was backing himself up against the cage, bobbing and weaving, using head movement and looking for big openings to land punches back against Magny. Bobbing and weaving, lots of unnecessary head movement, looking for big shots to come back with against Magny. Remind you of anyone that might try the same exact thing? Robbie Lawler. I think Magny's going to go out there, outrange him completely, be sticking behind the jab the entire fight, throwing his front kicks, throwing the oblique kicks as well, landing leg kicks against Lawler, who's a little bit more injury prone this point in his career, been through some knee surgeries. I just feel as though Neil Magny's going to get it done. I don't see Lawler coming in and KOing him early, so I don't see him winning, because I don't see Lawler winning in any other way than that. I think his only chance is to go out there, blitz the fucking gates, just destroy Magny in the first round, and we haven't seen a finish from Lawler on the feet since Jake Ellenberger. So I'm not going to be going with it. Remember, his last clear win, Robbie Lawler, was against Donald Cerrone by a close split decision. I think it was unanimous maybe, but it was a close decision that some people thought Cerrone won. I thought Lawler won the fight, but some people say Cerrone won it. Like, that's not good, man. I don't rate that anymore. I'm going to go with Neil Magny getting a job done. I think that's guaranteed money, kind of. Moving on up the card, Anthony Smith, the main event. Anthony Smith versus Alexander Rakic. Great main event to have. Amazing main event. It's only 3 rounds, which makes me pick Rakic. If this was a 5-round main event, I'm picking Anthony Smith. I think he outlasts Rakic. I don't think Rakic is going to go out there and finish Lionheart Smith. It's very difficult to do that. I mean, even referees can't finish Anthony Smith, as we saw in his last fight versus Teixeira. I'm going to go with Alexander Rakic going out there, winning the first 2 rounds comfortably on the feet, starting to slow down in the third, but still having the energy to survive against Anthony Smith in that 3rd round. I think Rakic goes out there, outranges Smith, outlands him. He's a tall guy for the division. I think you're going to be surprised by the difference of the size of them in the cage, because Smith has such a wide stance, which is going to leave open the leg kicks of Alexander Rakic. The front kicks of Rakic are going to be there. The body kicks of Rakic are going to be there, because Anthony Smith, you've seen in his previous fights, he stands very tall. He's got a long torso. He's got short arms. Not good for defending against body kicks because your elbows sit so high on your body. There's a massive gap under there for Rakic to sneak in those body kicks and try and slow down Smith a little bit more, so the third round isn't so good for Smith. I think if this was a 5-rounder, I'd genuinely pick Anthony Smith. 3-rounder, I don't think he has enough time. I think Rakic guarantees outstrikes him in the first 2 rounds regardless and keeps things standing. And I think Rakic is going to get the job done against Smith. 29-28. 2 rounds to 1, wins the first 2 rounds by outstriking Smith, loses the last round. I'll be breaking this one down in more detail among some other big fights on the card as well, including Lawler versus Magna, Lawler versus Magny, Smith versus Rakic on the card. I'll be breaking that one down, and I'll probably be breaking down Caceres versus Chikadze as well. Why not? It's a fun matchup. Great card overall. I'm excited to see who Lamas's opponent is, but just assume that I pick Lamas because I'm assuming it's going to be a guy making their debut or something. So we're going with Rakic in the main event. I just think he's going to be a little bit too slick on the feet in those first 2 rounds. Plus, Anthony Smith is coming off getting his teeth knocked out. They're not going to be more secure this time. They're only going to be easier to knock out. I don't like that as a little ulterior thing to think about when I'm trying to predict Anthony Smith. He's taken a lot of damage in his career. Recently as well, he took that damage against Teixeira. Not too long ago. I mean, it was under this current situation. Take a long time off Smith. At least come back in December or something. He's coming back now. I think Rakic is going to go out there and make him pay. Learn a lot from his Ozdemir fight, which I thought Rakic won anyway. I think Rakic gets it done against Smith. Thank you for watching the fight. Like and subscribe. Click that button there. Goodbye. I'll see you later. Resurrection season.